It all started back in 2016, a year that feels like a ghost that still haunts the hallways of my memory. It wasn't a dramatic movie-like explosion of a breakup. There were no thrown plates or tearful shouting matches in the rain. It was quieter, slower, and honestly, much more painful. It was the slow death of a promise, the kind that withers away like a plant you forgot to water. I had poured everything I had into one person, believing that was the blueprint for happiness. We were supposed to be the forever kind of story, the one you tell your grandkids about, but forever turned out to have an expiration date, and I was left holding the receipt for a love that was no longer valid. The silence after she left was louder than any argument we ever had. The pain wasn't just about losing her, it was about losing the version of myself that existed only with her. It felt like a fundamental part of my being had been surgically removed without anesthesia. Mornings were honestly the worst. I'd wake up and for a split second, everything would be normal. Then the heavy blanket of reality would crash down on me, reminding me that the space beside me was empty. I walked through my days like a zombie, performing the motions of life without actually living. Friends would say, "Time heals all wounds," but they didn't understand. This wasn't a wound, it was an amputation. You don't heal from an amputation, you just learn to live without the limb you lost, forever feeling its phantom presence. For years I was stuck in that loop. 2017 became 2018, then 2019. The world moved on, but I was still standing on the same spot where she left me. I tried dating, I tried pretending I was okay. I would go out, smile, laugh at jokes, and even hold someone's hand, but it all felt like a performance. I was an actor playing the part of a person who had moved on, but backstage, in the quiet of my own mind, the ghost of 2016 was always there, whispering reminders of what I had lost. It was a self-inflicted torture, a loyalty to a memory that was no longer loyal to me. I was guarding a tomb, and the only thing buried inside was my own heart. The heartbreak became my identity. It was the story I told myself every day. I am the man who was left behind. I am the man who loved too much and got nothing in return. This narrative was my shield and my prison. It protected me from getting hurt again, because it prevented me from truly connecting with anyone else. Why risk building something new, when the rubble of the old building was still scattered all around me? I was convinced that deep, singular love was a beautiful lie, a trap designed to break you in the most spectacular way possible. And so, I stayed broken, believing it was safer than trying to be whole again. The year 2016 wasn't just a time, it was a place I couldn't seem to leave. The aftermath of that long, drawn-out heartbreak was not a period of healing, but one of construction. I started building walls around my heart, not small fences, but massive, medieval-style fortifications with moats and drawbridges. I became an expert architect of emotional distance. The primary material for these walls was a deep-seated fear, the fear of giving one person the power to destroy my world again. The memory of that singular devastation was so potent that the idea of repeating it was honestly just unthinkable. I decided that no single individual would ever hold that much of me again. It was a vow made in the dark, a promise to my wounded self that I would never be that vulnerable, that exposed, ever again. This decision radically changed how I approached relationships, or what passed for them. I became a master of the superficial. I could talk, laugh, and share moments, but there was always a line that nobody was allowed to cross. My heart was a locked room and I had swallowed the key. People would get close, they would sense the potential for something more, but they would eventually collide with an invisible barrier. They couldn't put their finger on it, but they could feel it. The emotional unavailability, the carefully curated distance. I was present physically, but my core, my true self, was always somewhere else, safely hidden behind the walls I had so meticulously built over the years. The effect of this self-imposed isolation was a strange kind of loneliness. I was often surrounded by people, yet I felt utterly alone. It was the loneliness of a watchtower guard, looking down at the world, but never being a part of it. I had successfully protected myself from another catastrophic heartbreak, but in doing so, I had also starved myself of genuine connection. I was safe, but I was also empty. The fortress I built to keep pain out also kept joy from coming in. It was a sterile, controlled environment where nothing could hurt me, but also where nothing could truly touch me. It was a miserable, stable existence. This period of emotional lockdown forced me to reevaluate the very concept of love. The model I'd been sold my entire life, the one-on-one, all-or-nothing soulmate narrative, had failed me spectacularly. It felt like a flawed design, a system with a single point of failure. When that single point breaks, the entire system collapses. I started to wonder if there was another way. Was it possible to love without handing over the keys to your entire kingdom? Was there a way to connect, to care, to be intimate, without risking total annihilation? This questioning wasn't a sign of healing yet, but it was the first crack in the walls I had built. A tiny sliver of light was beginning to get through. My journey away from the traditional path of monogamy wasn't a sudden rebellion. It was a slow, logical progression born from deep introspection. I started to think about love not as a destination, but as a landscape. Why was I expected to choose only one road to travel for the rest of my life? The world is full of different paths, each offering unique views, different challenges, and varied experiences. To commit to only one felt like deciding to only ever eat one type of food, or listen to one song for eternity. It seemed unnecessarily restrictive, especially when my experience on that one road had led to such a devastating crash. I began to question the one true love narrative we are all fed from birth. This questioning led me to a simple but profound realization. People are not interchangeable. Each person is a unique universe of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. The connection I might share with one person, intellectual, witty, and full of laughter, could be completely different from the connection I might have with another, deeply emotional, quiet, and nurturing. Why should I have to choose between them? Why is one type of connection deemed superior or more valid than another? Insisting on a single partner felt like forcing one person to be my everything, my best friend, my intellectual equal, my passionate lover, my emotional confidant. It seemed like an immense and unfair pressure to put on anyone. I realized that my capacity to love wasn't a finite resource that gets depleted. It wasn't a pie that had to be divided into smaller, less satisfying slices. Instead, it felt more like a muscle. The more I used it, the stronger and more capable it became. Loving one person didn't diminish my ability to love another. In fact, the joy and learning from one relationship could enrich the others. It was a paradigm shift. I stopped seeing love as a zero-sum game, where one person's gain was another's loss. I started to see it as an expansive, generative force. It was about addition, not subtraction. This new perspective felt liberating. It wasn't about being greedy or incapable of commitment. On the contrary, it was about a different kind of commitment, a commitment to honesty, to emotional growth, and to honoring the unique value each person brought into my life. Choosing polygamy, or more accurately, polyamory, wasn't a rejection of love. It was an embrace of love in its many forms. It was my way of navigating the world of relationships without putting all my emotional eggs in one fragile basket. It was a conscious decision to build a more resilient, diversified emotional support system, ensuring that the collapse of one connection wouldn't mean the collapse of my entire world. Choosing this path wasn't like flipping a switch. It was like learning a new language, one that didn't have a dictionary. Polyamory, for me, wasn't about collecting partners or escaping commitment. It was about building a network of meaningful, honest, and consensual relationships. The biggest challenge was unlearning a lifetime of social conditioning. Every movie, every song, every fairy tale had taught me that love was a story of two people against the world. My new story involved multiple protagonists, and I had to write the script as I went along. The first step was radical honesty, both with myself and with anyone I became involved with. I had to be upfront about my intentions and my relationship style from the very beginning. This meant having difficult conversations. It meant being clear that I was not looking for the one, but that I was open to building significant connections with more than one person. It required a level of communication that I had never practiced in my monogamous past. In a polyamorous framework, you can't rely on assumptions. You have to talk about everything: boundaries, expectations, fears, and feelings of jealousy. It was terrifying at first. It felt like walking a tightrope without a net. But I soon discovered that this intense level of communication was actually building stronger, more resilient connections than I'd ever had before. There were no hidden agendas or unspoken rules. Everything was out in the open. The structure I found that worked for me was one of open and honest non-monogamy. This meant that while I had multiple partners, they were all aware of each other. Not necessarily in a way where everyone had to be best friends, but in a way that there were no secrets. The goal was to eliminate the betrayal and deception that so often accompany infidelity. My commitment was to be truthful to everyone involved. It was a commitment to treating each person with respect and ensuring they had all the information they needed to make their own informed choices about being in a relationship with me. It was a puzzle, fitting different pieces together, but the picture that emerged was one of authenticity. Of course, this path is not without its challenges. Jealousy is a real and human emotion, and it does surface. But instead of seeing it as a sign that the relationship is doomed, we learn to see it as a signal. It's an indicator that a need is not being met, or that an insecurity has been triggered. It becomes a prompt for another conversation, a chance to understand each other better, and to offer reassurance. It's not about eliminating jealousy, but about learning how to navigate it with compassion and communication. This intricate dance of emotions, conversations, and boundaries became the new architecture of my love life, a complex but ultimately more honest and stable structure than the single pillar I had relied on before. Even with a new philosophy on love, the echoes of past pain still lingered. Moving on from a connection, even in a polyamorous context, can be difficult. To manage this, and to prevent myself from falling back into the obsessive patterns of my 2016 heartbreak, I developed a personal guideline I call the 3-month rule. This isn't a rigid law, but more of a mental framework to ensure my own emotional hygiene. If a relationship ends, for whatever reason, I give myself a dedicated 3-month period to process it. This period is a conscious and deliberate time for reflection, feeling the emotions, and recalibrating my inner world before diving deeply into a new connection, or significantly altering the dynamics of my existing ones. The first month is for grieving. I allow myself to feel the sadness, the disappointment, the anger, or whatever emotions come up. I don't try to suppress them or immediately replace the person. I learned from my past that unprocessed grief doesn't disappear, it just festers, so I give it space. I might write about it, talk to a trusted friend, or simply sit with the discomfort. This is the time to honor what the connection meant to me and to acknowledge the loss. It's about accepting the reality that something has ended and giving myself permission to be not okay for a little while. This conscious grieving prevents the emotions from being buried alive, only to re-emerge later as unresolved issues. The second month is for analysis and learning. Once the initial wave of raw emotion has subsided, I shift into a more reflective mode. I ask myself questions. What did I learn from this relationship? What did it teach me about myself, my needs, and my boundaries? What worked well, and what didn't? This isn't about placing blame on myself or the other person. It's about extracting wisdom from the experience. It's an opportunity for growth. By understanding the dynamics of the relationship that ended, I can become a better partner in my other relationships and make wiser choices in the future. It's like, reviewing the game footage after a loss to understand the plays and improve my strategy for the next game. The third and final month is for reintegration and moving forward. This is the phase where I consciously shift my focus back to the present and the future. I reconnect with my own hobbies, my goals, and my other relationships. It's about re-establishing my sense of self outside of the context of the relationship that ended. It's a time to remind myself of all the other sources of joy and fulfillment in my life. By the end of this 3-month period, the wound is no longer raw. It may still be a scar, but it no longer dictates my every move. This structured process has become my personal reset button, allowing me to move on cleanly and consciously without carrying the ghosts of one connection into the next. My belief in loving many over loving just one has become a cornerstone of my existence. This isn't a judgment on monogamy for others, it's a profound personal truth that has brought me more peace than I ever thought possible. The core of this belief is diversification. In finance, they tell you not to put all your money into one stock. Why should our emotional investments be any different? By building a network of love and support, I am more resilient. The happiness and stability in my life no longer depend on the mood or decisions of a single person. My well-being is supported by multiple pillars, so if one gets shaky or even crumbles, I am not left in a pile of rubble. The entire structure remains standing. This philosophy also encourages personal growth in a way that monogamy never did for me. Each person I love brings out a different part of me. With one partner, I might explore my intellectual side, engaging in deep conversations about philosophy and science. With another, I might connect on a level of shared humor and playful adventure. A third might be a source of calm, grounding energy. It's not that any single person is incomplete. It's that I am a multifaceted being, and different people resonate with different facets of my personality. Loving many allows me to be my whole self, rather than just the version of me that fits best with one particular partner. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery, facilitated by the diverse mirrors that my partners hold up to me. Furthermore, I've found that loving many has made me a better, more present partner. Because I'm not relying on one person to meet all of my needs, I can appreciate each partner for who they truly are, not for what I need them to be. There is less pressure, less expectation. I can enjoy my time with one person without feeling a nagging sense of what's missing because those other needs are being met elsewhere. This allows me to be fully present in each interaction, appreciating the unique gift of their company. It fosters a sense of gratitude and reduces the tendency to take someone for granted. The love is less about need and more about genuine appreciation and shared joy. Ultimately for me, loving many feels more natural and more abundant. Love is not a scarce commodity. It is an infinite, expansive force. The idea that you have a limited amount of love to give, and that giving it to more than one person diminishes its value, feels like an artificial constraint imposed by social tradition. My experience has been the opposite. The more love I give, the more I feel. The joy from one relationship spills over and enhances the others. It creates a positive feedback loop of affection, support, and happiness. For me, the one-on-one model felt like a cage, albeit a beautiful one. Loving many is like having the freedom of the open sky. To those of you who share your time, your energy, and your hearts with me, this is for you. I need you to know, deep in your bones, how much each of you means to me. You are not interchangeable parts in a machine. You are each a unique star in my personal constellation, and the sky of my life would be darker and emptier without you. The love I feel for you is not a diluted, lesser version of love. It is whole and specific to you. The way I laugh with one of you is a laugh that belongs only to our shared moments. The quiet understanding I have with another is a language that only we speak. Please never doubt that the love I have for you is real, distinct, and deeply valued. I know that this arrangement is not what we were taught to expect from love. I know that it can be challenging. The green-eyed monster of jealousy is a powerful beast, conditioned by a lifetime of stories that tell us love must be exclusive to be real. I am asking you to fight that conditioning with me. I am asking you to trust in the honesty and communication that form the foundation of our connections. When you feel a pang of jealousy, please see it not as a threat, but as an invitation. An invitation to talk to me, to tell me your fears, to let me reassure you. Your feelings are always valid, and I am always here to listen and to work through them with you. My commitment to each of you is this. I will always be honest. I will always treat you with respect. I will always honor the unique space you occupy in my life. I will never compare you to one another, for that would be like comparing the sun to the moon. Both are beautiful, both are essential, and both light up my world in different ways. I chose this path not because I am incapable of commitment, but because my commitment is to a different kind of truth. A truth where love is abundant, not scarce. A truth where I can be my whole self, and where I can appreciate all of you for the whole wonderful people that you are. Please accept this setup, not as a compromise, but as my most authentic way of loving. I am not searching for a way out, nor am I waiting for the one to come along and make me change my mind. This is it. This is the life I have chosen, the life that has healed me and brought me balance. You are not temporary. You are not placeholders. You're the people I have chosen to build this life with. You are my partners, my friends, my confidants. You are my constellation, and I am endlessly grateful to be navigating this universe with all of you. Your presence in my life is a gift, and I will never take it for granted. There is a finality in my choice that feels as solid and real as the ground beneath my feet. The idea of returning to monogamy feels like trying to fit back into clothes that I have long outgrown. It's not that the clothes are bad, they simply no longer fit the person I have become. The thought of pouring all of my emotional energy, all my hopes, and all my dependencies onto a single person now feels not only risky, but deeply unfair to that individual. It's an immense burden to place on someone. The expectation that they must be your everything. I have learned that I am a better, healthier, and happier person when my emotional needs are met by a supportive network rather than a single source. The journey from the wreckage of 2016 to now has been a complete rewiring of my understanding of love and commitment. I have unlearned the myth of the soulmate, the idea that there is one perfect person out there for you who will complete you. I have learned that I am already complete on my own, and that relationships are not about finding a missing piece, but about sharing your completeness with others. Returning to a monogamous framework would feel like willingly re-entering the prison of a narrative that once broke me. I have tasted a different kind of freedom, one built on honesty, communication, and emotional abundance. I cannot untaste it. My commitment to this lifestyle is firm. This is not a phase I am going through. It is not a temporary solution to a past hurt. It is the permanent solution I have built for myself. When I tell my partners that I will not return to monogamy, it is a promise. It is a declaration that this is who I am now. It is my way of assuring them that they are not part of an experiment. They are part of my life, a life I have consciously and deliberately designed. This certainty is not born of arrogance, but of a deep self-awareness forged in the fires of a long and painful healing process. I know what broke me, and I know what has made me whole again. This path is not an easy one. It demands more communication, more emotional intelligence, and more self-reflection than any relationship I had before. But the rewards are immeasurable. The resilience, the personal growth, and the sheer abundance of love and support in my life are things I will not trade for the perceived simplicity of a one-on-one relationship. I have built a life that is rich, complex, and filled with love in many forms. It is a life that is uniquely mine. There is no turning back, because the person who would have walked that old path no longer exists. I have moved on, not just from a person, but from an entire ideology that no longer serves me. The journey from being shattered by the memory of one person to being healed by the love of many has finally led me here, to a place of balance and tranquility. It's not the conventional heaven that stories promise, with a single angel by your side. It's my own strange heaven, a bustling, vibrant ecosystem of connections that feels more stable and life-affirming than any singular love I ever knew. The constant fear of loss that once plagued me has been replaced by a quiet confidence in the resilience of my emotional world. The pain from 2016 is no longer a gaping wound. It is a scar, a faint line that reminds me of where I've been, but it no longer dictates where I'm going. This balance comes from a deep understanding and acceptance of myself. I have learned that my heart is not a finite vessel, but an expanding universe. The healing came when I stopped trying to patch the hole left by one person, and instead started cultivating a garden where many different flowers could grow. Each relationship nourishes me in a unique way, and in turn, I have more to give back to each of them. It's a symbiotic system. The joy from one connection gives me the energy to be a better partner in another. The support from one helps me navigate challenges in a different one. It's a network of mutual care that has finally brought peace to my once turbulent soul. I have found my equilibrium in the dynamic, ever-shifting dance of polyamory. It requires me to be constantly present, mindful, and communicative. It forces me to be the best version of myself, not for one person, but for many, and most importantly for myself. The structure I have built with its rules of honesty, its 3-month reset button, and its commitment to open communication has become my sanctuary. It's a framework that allows for love to flourish without the suffocating pressure of being everything to one person. It's a system designed not to prevent pain, because loss is a part of life, but to prevent total system failure. Today, on October 10th, 2025, I can honestly say I am at peace. I have found a way to love deeply and to be loved in return, without losing myself in the process. My life is not simple, but it is full. It is not without its challenges, but it is resilient. I have healed by rewriting the rules of my own heart. I have found stability not in the stillness of a single, unchanging bond, but in the dynamic balance of many. I have built my own strange heaven, and for the first time in a very long time, it feels like home. The ghost of 2016 has finally been laid to rest, not by forgetting, but by building a life so full of love that there is simply no room for it to haunt me anymore.